My name is Martin Hale. Today I want to tell you my story about getting pushed out after nearly 2 decades, and what happened when they ignored the fine print. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and comment below where you're watching from. "We don't need old men slowing us down," she snapped. Flipping her hair like firing me was just a box to check. I didn't argue. I didn't flinch. Just gave a half smile and nodded once. My name's Martin Hale. I'm 59, and I had been the operations manager at Bennett Industrial Systems in Cedar Falls, Ohio for 18 years. I wasn't the loud guy in meetings or the type to pitch bold ideas. My job was to make sure everything worked. Machines, teams, shipments, all of it. When Alyssa Grant, the new CEO and daughter of the company's founder, told me I was done, I packed up my things in silence. No drama. Just one cardboard box full of memories. I saw younger workers look away as I left. Some of them I'd trained from the time they were teenagers. Now they had their own kids, and none of them said a word. Gerald Bennett had built the company from scratch over 4 decades ago. One man, one lathe in his garage. He turned it into a $30 million powerhouse through sheer hard work and honesty. He'd hired me back when his health started slipping. "You're the only one I trust not to cut corners," he told me. That meant everything. But now his daughter Alyssa, 28, business degree in hand and fresh off 2 years living in San Diego, thought the place needed a fresh start. That meant removing anyone who remembered life before spreadsheets and buzzwords. As I walked to my truck with my box of things, I wasn't angry. I felt steady. Because Alyssa hadn't read the contract. The one Gerald had written himself to keep me from jumping ship years ago. It said, if I was let go without documented cause, I'd receive 18 months compensation. I set the box on the passenger seat, rested my hands on the wheel, and looked through the windshield. The factory floor I'd kept running all these years, the machines, the people, the systems, were now on their own. No door slam, no tire screech. I just drove home and called Daryl Norton, a lawyer and friend who'd been waiting for a clean case like this one. I've never been flashy. I was married to Marianne for 29 years before a chronic illness took her. We raised 2 kids. Our son's an engineer in Phoenix. Our daughter teaches elementary school in Springfield. Everything in my life was built on trust and reliability. I brought that same mindset to Bennett Industrial. Gerald wasn't just a boss. In many ways, he was the father I didn't have. My own dad disappeared when I was 11. Mom raised 3 boys on a clerk's wages. Gerald took a chance on me when I was 41 and laid off from a failing auto plant. I had a hands-on skill set and a community college degree in industrial tech. "Credentials don't build machines," Gerald had said during my interview. "Men with sense do." Within 2 years, he made me head of operations. We didn't go fishing or grab beers, but we had respect. When Marianne got sick, he quietly changed my schedule so I could take her to every treatment. No need to ask, he just knew. The first red flag came about a year ago. Alyssa started showing up to meetings dressed sharp, trailing strong cologne, and talking about synergy and market disruption. Gerald would wince sometimes at her suggestions, ideas that would have gutted quality checks or outsourced key components. But he never shut her down in public. He just fixed things quietly afterward. "She needs to learn, Martin," he told me once. "Some lessons don't come from books." Then came the second warning, when Gerald said he was retiring a few months back. Heart issues, he claimed, but I knew it was the pressure. When he handed me the new org chart with Alyssa at the top, his eyes didn't meet mine. "I made her promise to keep the core team," he said. I nodded, but something in my gut turned. He couldn't look me in the eye, like he knew what was coming, but couldn't stop it. The morning after I was fired, I sat at my kitchen table with my contract spread out in front of me. Daryl had highlighted the key part. If they fired me without documented cause, they owed me 18 months of pay. Just then, my phone rang. Gerald's name lit up the screen. I hesitated, then answered. 18 years of loyalty doesn't vanish overnight. "Martin," he said, voice strained. "What the hell happened?" You'll have to ask your daughter, I replied calmly. I kept my voice level. Ask your daughter, I said, not bitter, not angry, just stating the facts. There was a long pause on the other end. She claims you were... Gerald hesitated, searching for words. Resisting the new vision. Said you were challenging her authority on the floor. I didn't reply. Just let the silence sit there. He knew me. He knew that wasn't true. You're going to file a claim, aren't you? I already did, I said. Daryl Norton is handling it. Gerald let out a slow breath. I told her to check the contracts, he muttered. Told her they were protected for a reason. Another pause. She cleared the whole deck, Martin. You, Rick, Clara. Anyone over 50. My jaw clenched. Rick had led our engineering team for 12 years. Clara had run the compliance division like it was her own lab. Both of them were vital to everything we built. This what you wanted? I asked. Scrap the people who built the place with you? You know it's not, he said, sounding tired. But I handed over control. As hers now. I heard voices behind him, one sharp and impatient. It was Alyssa. I have to go, Gerald said suddenly. The call ended. I stared at the contract on my kitchen table. Section 12, paragraph 3, highlighted in yellow. If an employee is terminated without documented cause, it read, as outlined in Appendix C, they are entitled to severance equal to 18 months of current salary. Daryl had told me earlier, this is solid. They'll either pay now or lose worse in court. And cover my fees too. I stood, walked to the back window and looked out. A maple tree stood tall, the one Marianne and I had planted decades back. It had survived lightning strikes, disease, and storms. We supported it, fed it, and watched it thrive again. That tree reminded me, this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about respect, about value, about experience not being disposable. I picked up my phone. First call, Rick. Second, Clara. By noon, I had spoken with every senior team member Alyssa had cut. Some were stunned, others were boiling. All of them were scared. I told them the same thing. Breathe. Read your contracts. Then call Daryl. Then I made one more call. To Edward Marks. He owned Vertex components across town. He'd been trying to recruit me for years. You still open to that chat? I asked. 3 days later, I sat across from Alyssa and Bennett Industrial's corporate attorney in a downtown office. Daryl was beside me, his leather folio open, contract copy right on top. This is nonsense, Alyssa scoffed, not even glancing at the paperwork. We're moving in a new direction. That qualifies as cause. Daryl, 64 and calm like always, tapped the page. Appendix C outlines clear definitions. Termination without cause equals 18 months compensation, roughly $280,000 in Mr. Hale's case. The company lawyer, a young man named Brandon Lee, looked uneasy as he read, through the document, performance failures, ethical breaches, or illegal activity. He resisted change, Alyssa interrupted. That's insubordination. Do you have documentation? Daryl asked. Written warnings? Performance reviews? Because the clause requires a documented pattern, not one opinion. Brandon flipped through a slim folder. Empty. Alyssa's jaw tightened. Fine, we'll offer a few months' pay and call it done. 18 months, Daryl corrected, calm as ever. That's outrageous, she snapped. 6 months, final offer. I didn't say a word, just watched her. In that moment I saw something familiar. The same hard stare Gerald used to get, but different. His stubbornness came from protecting something. Hers? It felt like destruction. Daryl shut his folio. Then we'll proceed with court action. Discovery should be interesting, especially when reviewing why several employees over 50 were terminated at once. Brandon's eyes widened. He leaned in to whisper something to Alyssa. She brushed him off. "Don't try to scare me," she said. "We're ready to fight this. You'll be stuck in court for years." I finally spoke. "I've got time." She added coldly, "Good luck finding anyone to hire you. After this, no one will want to touch you." That's when Gerald walked in. I hadn't seen him since the farewell gathering. He looked thinner, weaker, but his eyes were sharp. "Alyssa," he said quietly, "a word. We're in the middle of something, Dad. Now." They stepped into the hall. Through the glass walls, I saw them arguing, Gerald pointing, Alyssa folding her arms, clearly frustrated. When they returned, she avoided my eyes. "Brandon," Gerald said, "draw up the severance paperwork, as the contract requires." "Dad," she started, "not now." Then he turned to me. "I'm sorry, Martin. This isn't the ending you deserved." I gave a small nod. That was enough. As Daryl and I stood to leave, Alyssa stepped in front of me. "This isn't over," she warned. "Any company that hires you, they'll lose our business." Gerald flinched but didn't speak. I just nodded again, already thinking about the conversation I'd had with Edward Marks and the offer that was now on the table. Edward had talked for years about a market that Bennett Industrial had ignored: custom, high-margin hydraulics. Now his company, Vertex Components, was moving in. "You were right about one thing," I told Alyssa before walking out that day. "It's not over." A week later, the severance hit my account. $280,000, after taxes. The most money I'd ever seen at once. But instead of feeling triumphant, I just sat there. It wasn't about the payout. It wasn't about revenge. It was about purpose. That same afternoon, I met Rick Marlowe, our old head of engineering, at a quiet diner halfway between our homes. The place was nearly empty, just a couple truckers at the counter. We sat in a back booth. "Daryl got me a year's severance," Rick said, stirring his coffee. "Not bad, but they want me to sign an NDA. Can't talk about anything I worked on for 5 years. He gave a dry laugh. 40 years in engineering, and now I can't even talk about my own designs. "You signing it?" "Not much choice. Got a granddaughter starting college." I slid a card across the table. "Edward Marks, Vertex Components." "He's looking for a consultant," I told him. "Someone who knows hydraulics. No NDA required." Rick stared at it. "Bennett'll sue me if I go work for him." "Not if you're just offering general advice. Nothing proprietary." He slipped the card into his jacket. "What's going on, Martin? You've never been the start a fire type." He was right. I hadn't told anyone yet, but Rick deserved to know. "I'm joining Vertex," I said quietly. "Edward wants me to head up a new division. Small batch, high precision, custom, work. Exactly the stuff Alyssa calls a waste of time." Rick's eyebrows lifted. "That's what Gerald always believed was the company's future. She's betting everything on mass production, trying to match overseas prices. She can't," I said. "No chance," Rick agreed. "Not with our costs." He leaned in. "You think Gerald's part of this?" I shook my head. "No, but I had lunch with Clara yesterday. She said Alyssa's been selling off the custom machinery Gerald bought last year, already offloaded half of it." Rick's eyes widened. "That's over $2 million in equipment. Probably got 30 cents on the dollar." He sat back, realization dawning. "She's stripping the company." I nodded. "And guess who's been buying property in San Diego?" Rick ran a hand down his face. "Does Gerald know?" "I doubt it. He built that place for legacy, not liquidation." We sat in silence. This wasn't just about us anymore. It was about everyone still working there. The ones who had no idea what was coming. "What are you planning to do?" Rick finally asked. "Build something better," I said. "Something that honors where we came from and where we're going." He gave a cautious smile. "With Edward Marks? He's just the backer, 2 years from retirement, wants to invest in people who know what they're doing, then step away." I leaned forward. "And yes, I need someone who knows hydraulics." Rick chuckled. So that's why you called. You're the first person I thought of, as long as your NDA doesn't block industry standards. He was quiet for a moment, thinking it through. This isn't just business for you, is it? No, I said. It's personal. About value. About building something that lasts. 2 months after I'd been let go, I stood in Edward Mark's office, reviewing blueprints for our new venture. Forge Core Dynamics. Rick had come up with the name. Build from the corners up, he said. That's how you make something that lasts. We were setting up in a refurbished warehouse on the east side of Cedar Falls. Small, lean, precise. Just like the components we planned to make. Edward spread a few supplier contracts across his desk. Machine shops confirmed, first 5 units can be delivered by next month, and our digital lathe programmer starts Monday. He gave me a look. Former Bennett guy. Said you referred him. I nodded. Nate Ellison. 6 years there. Brilliant with modeling. Criminally underpaid. Alyssa slashed his team's budget by 30%, then doubled her own salary. He quit 2 weeks ago. Edward raised a brow. How many's that now? 7, I replied. All top talent. He gave a low whistle. They're bleeding staff. People follow leadership, I said. Alyssa's not giving them any. My phone buzzed. A message from Clara, still stuck in Bennett's compliance division, counting down to retirement but keeping me informed from the inside. She'd sent a photo of an internal memo. Production delays, quality issues, 3 major clients threatening to pull contracts. I showed the image to Edward. Just like we thought, he said, shaking his head. The talent drain's already catching up to them. I looked down at the phone, feeling no satisfaction. These weren't just numbers. They were people. Friends, families, lives. This wasn't about destroying what existed. It was about building what was next. I handed the phone to Edward. He adjusted his glasses, studying the photo Clara had sent. Just like we expected, he said. The brain drain starting to hit their bottom line. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. There was no joy in it. Bennett Industrial had supported families I knew by name. Workers with mortgages, kids in school, aging parents. Watching it fall apart wasn't satisfying. It was just sad. We should reach out to Northern Tech Supply, I said, referring to one of Bennett's biggest clients. Let them know we'll be operational in 60 days. Edward nodded, scribbling into his notebook. Already on it, meeting with their purchasing manager next week. They're eager. I walked to the window, looking down at our warehouse floor. Teams were installing machinery. Our systems were simple but powerful, built on 2 things Alyssa never understood: experience and innovation, working side by side. Then my phone rang. Gerald Bennett. I hesitated. I should take this, I said. Edward nodded and stepped out, shutting the door. Gerald. Martin, he said, sounding tired. We need to talk. I'm listening. I know what you're building, the new company, the staff you're pulling from us. I said nothing. It wasn't illegal, not even unethical, just business. I'm not calling to stop you, he continued. I'm calling to ask for your help. That caught me off guard. What kind of help? The kind that might keep my company from collapsing. He paused. Alyssa's been selling off equipment, cutting corners. The board's worried. So am I. Why tell me? Because you know every part of the operation. You're the only one who might see a path forward. Another breath. And because I should have listened to you. You warned me she wasn't ready. I closed my eyes, thought about all the years we'd built that company together, the trust, the people, the promise. What exactly are you asking? Come to my place, 7 tonight. Bring Rick if he's willing. The board wants to talk about options. Options? Including a change in leadership, he said, voice a little stronger now. I looked out the window at our shop floor, the team we'd built, the future we were growing from nothing. I'll come, I said, but no promises. Fair enough, Gerald said with quiet relief. And Martin? Yeah? Thanks for still picking up. 6 months after getting fired, I stood in the back of Bennett Industrial's executive suite. The quarterly staff summit had just begun. Alyssa sat at the head of the table, surrounded by her new team, all under 35, all looking uncomfortable. I wasn't supposed to speak until the end. That had been the agreement. Let her present first. Let her explain the 37% drop in revenue, the canceled contracts, the quality failures. Halfway through blaming market forces and outdated processes, she spotted me. "What's he doing here?" she snapped, pointing. Gerald sat quietly with the board. The chairman stood. "Alyssa," he said firmly, "the board has made a decision about leadership." Her face went pale. "Martin," the chairman turned to me, "would you explain the new arrangement?" I stepped forward, holding a folder. Not the severance folder Daryl once prepared. This one was entirely different. "Bennett Industrial is merging with ForgeCore Dynamics," I said. "The board approved the agreement this morning." Alyssa laughed. "That's absurd. I'm the majority shareholder." "No," Gerald said calmly. "You hold 25%. I kept 55%. I voted for the merger." I slid the folder across the table. "ForgeCore will absorb the custom hydraulics division. The rest of the company will continue under new leadership." "My leadership," Rick said, stepping in through the door. Alyssa flipped through the papers, her hands trembling. "This is," she whispered. "This is business." I nodded. "Nothing personal." 1 year after the merger, I stood on the observation platform of the new facility, now housing both ForgeCore Dynamics and Bennett Advanced Systems. Machines moved in rhythm below. Teams worked with purpose. The air buzzed with energy. Gerald joined me, leaning on his cane. His health had declined, but his eyes still carried fire. "We just got the quarter's report," he said, handing it over. "Best numbers in 5 years." I read the data. Margins were up. Staff turnover was down. 3 new patents had been filed. "Alyssa called yesterday," Gerald said softly. I raised an eyebrow. "She's in San Diego, starting a consulting firm, asked if I'd invest." "Will you?" He shook his head. "Told her she needs to come back here first, learn from the ground up, like we did." I smiled, saying nothing. "She hung up," he continued. "But this morning, she called back. Asked if the offer still stands." Below, I saw Nate training 2 new programmers on a precision model. Clara in her lab coat, inspecting parts. Rick at his station, hand-sketching a design before inputting it. Experience and innovation, not replacing each other, strengthening each other. "You know," Gerald said, "when I added that severance clause to your contract, I never imagined it'd come to this." Neither did I. We stood in silence, watching something we'd helped build come alive again. Some lessons are costly, but the ones that stick, the ones that change everything, they're worth every penny. That was my story. And while the chapters have closed, the lessons still echo. Maybe you've faced a moment like this. Maybe you're in the middle of one right now. I'd love to know how you would have handled it. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. And if this story made you think, even just a little, don't forget to subscribe, because the next story, it might just hit closer than you expect.